What we're seeing really so far centers heavily on Georgia, where early voting started on Monday, October 12th. And the first day of voting there was truly epic. People lined up hours before polls opened, sometimes 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. It was Columbus Day, federal holiday, which probably played a role in how many people chose to vote on this particular day. But it's also incredible that they wanted to do it so badly on the first day that they chose that day to do it. In Georgia, election officials believe that the long lines are almost exclusively the result of unprecedented enthusiasm to participate in this election. There were very few glitches on the first day of voting. There were a couple, but they were minor. They were nothing like what we saw in the spring primary in Georgia. And they were solved pretty quickly. Electronic polling books didn't work, and they were fixed, and everything was back up and running within 45 minutes. Voter suppression is a topic that comes up a lot because it's real. It happens. It's happening this year. It's happened historically. It's happened particularly in strong ways in southern states, affecting people of color. There's a lot of rightful fear and misgiving about decisions that election officials make about how many polling locations to open and equipment, and why the long lines seem often to occur in cities with large minority populations. So it's understandable that there are accusations of voter suppression, but I also think that there's a certain amount of misinformation that flies, and I also think that our electorate is so divided. I mean, there is so much unwillingness on both sides to listen to the other side that there is just this presumption too often that if something goes wrong or if something happens that's unusual, that it must be because the other side did something underhanded. And I don't think that's what happened in Georgia on Monday. There's an interesting development in Texas where early in-person voting began on Tuesday, but where there was also this really interesting court decision with the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals late Monday night that basically bars counties from having more than one drop box for people to use to deposit their mail ballots if they're not comfortable using the postal service. Abbott said that he was doing it to protect the security of the vote and the election, although there really isn't any evidence that drop boxes cause fraud, and most drop box programs are under 24-hour surveillance and security. And so lots of local election officials in Texas were really upset about this decision because they felt like it was a tool of voter suppression that was meant to make it harder for people who live in some of Texas's large, very large counties from dropping their ballots off. So on Tuesday, the first day of early in-person voting, the place where we saw the most notable long lines was in Harris County, which is where Houston is. And the line was a line of vehicles to drop ballots off at the Harris County's sole drop box. And I think that's really interesting because it shows how much enthusiasm there is out there, not just to vote this year, but there's enthusiasm among voters to express how enthusiastic they are, to express how excited they are to vote, and to do so in a public way. So all these people turning out to vote in person on the very first day in Fairfax County, Virginia, or in Atlanta, Georgia, or to deposit their ballot on the very first day in Texas, even though they could do so for the next 18 days, says a lot about how much people want to vote as soon as they can. And it, to me, suggests that they are making a statement by doing so. And I think that's very interesting.
Good morning. Good morning.